Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have an upload that I don't really know how I feel about anything. You will soon realize why I say that. Before we get into it though, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. The merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, please subscribe. It doesn't cost you a cent. Click the like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative and exciting uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon. And finally, last but definitely not least, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things, they really do help this channel to grow and go. And folks, they definitely matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? Today's first encounter, you will see why I'm going to start off with this when we get into what happened today when I went to where Tom Mezek disappeared. Really quick, it has taken me 20 different times to get this far into the video. I've been home for 6 hours. I fell asleep for an hour, and I still am just adrenaline dumping or adrenaline coming down. But this is today's first encounter. Today's first encounter. I'm 53 years old. When I was 18, I joined the Marine Reserve straight out of high school. Combat engineer and bulk fuel specialist deployed in the first Gulf War. Now I'm a disabled veteran. My dad was a two-tour Vietnam Army with the 101st Airborne Rangers, 20-year vet. I grew up fishing very young. Dad and I used to get going hard to get to these spots. I was about 7 years old in Yakima, Washington. My dad was stationed there for a few years. We had gone fishing at our favorite fishing spot. My dad had gone around the lake and I stayed near the car, saw some fish splashing further out and decided, hey, let's try my luck. A big fish broke my line and I'm getting ready to retie the new hook when suddenly the hair stood on the back of my neck. The forest was quiet and I looked around and saw nothing. I quickly grabbed my gear and poles and ran to the car. My dad came out of the woods saying how a big bass had gotten away and asked why I was by the car and not fishing. I said, I don't know, I got bored. My dad looked at me and looked around and joked, hell must have froze over for me to say that. On our way home, he asked, why'd you really stop fishing? I said, I got scared all of a sudden, I don't know why. We left it at that, but I never stayed far from the car at that lake ever. Fast forward, we're living in Sierra Vista, Arizona, near Fort Huachuca Army Base. We lived out in the boonies, and the mountain range was nearby. I was 17 years old when this incident occurred. My family had gone to Tucson for the day. I had stayed home to feed our horses, cows, dogs, and chickens. I loved taking care of the extended family. It was monsoon season, raining hard. Later on that night, I heard the dogs barking outside, and we never let the dogs into the trailer. And they always knew better than to come in. I opened the back door and shouted, "Stop it," when my two dogs almost knocked me down in their haste to get into the trailer. They ran into the kitchen and would not budge. I tried hauling them by their collars, but they kept fighting me. All I could think was maybe the coyotes are outside. I went and got my dad's rifles out. I couldn't remember where my dad kept the ammo. He had a 30-06, a 22, a 30-30. I had shot all three and been trained in safety. I was captain of our JROTC rifle team, sharpshooting badge. Finally found the 30-30 round and slid it in. I figured if there were coyotes, I'd be able to scare them off with a gunshot in the air or near them. As I walked around looking for the ammo earlier, I had turned the outside lights on and saw our cow and 2 horses at the light by the front door. The rain had stopped, but I noticed that our animals were looking past our front door, as if sensing something near the opposite side by the back door. I shrugged it off, thinking the coyotes. I went to the back door with the rifle in hand, lights on, and opened that door. Lightning flashed, and I saw 2 red eyes looking back at me. We had a nearby gravel pile that we used to regrade our driveway. It was about 6 feet tall, and the reason why I state this was because those eyes were staring back at me and looking down at me. Coyote on the gravel? Bird? But out during a rainy monsoon. I raised the rifle and sight in on the eyes. But the lightning flashed. It was then that I saw the gravel pile illuminate off to the right, and nothing was on it. To the left of the eyes, the closest mesquite tree lit up too. No eyes there. I realized the eyes belonged to something large, staring at me, well over 9 feet tall. Only 1 bullet chambered and no more ammo because I hadn't found any. I lowered the weapon and closed the door, ran back inside, grabbed the other 2 rifles, remembering instantly where my dad had kept the ammo. Loaded every rifle, chambered them, put all the rifles in the kitchen with my dogs and I, and stayed there until the family came back. I never got chewed out so bad by my dad. Why do you have the rifles out? Why are they loaded and chambered? WTH do you think you're doing? You're grounded. I'm hiding all the rifles and ammo. I told my dad what happened, but he never did believe me. I still think of that night, and I shudder. Fast forward to recently, living in Alabama outside of Montgomery. I was bass fishing with my friend Mike below Lay Dam. We hadn't been fishing for more than an hour or so when this incident occurred. My friend Mike is an avid fisherman and hunter. He's hunted deer, hog, turkey, etc. He grew up doing this. We were fishing and having a great time when suddenly we hear an ungodly roar. To say it was loud is an understatement. If you think a dam warning horn to signal a dam slough or opening is loud, then you haven't heard whatever made this roar. I looked at Mike as he was the closest to the direction of the roar. I was at the back of the boat, and my head whipped sideways when I heard this. Mike stood up and looked in the direction of it. I asked Mike, "You ever hear anything like that in Alabama?" Mike looked at me and said, "I don't know." "What in the hell was that? And how far off was it?" I said, 5 miles or so? He said, "That sounds about right." We looked in the direction of it and went back to fishing. We joked about it, but Mike doesn't like me telling other people about this when he's around. That's all I got. Glad to get it off my chest. No idea if anyone else will believe it. Don't really care. But I know what happened, and that there are things out there that no 30-30, even fully loaded, would take down, let alone a bolt-action 30-06 and a 22 semi-auto, LOL. I wonder if I should ask Mike to go fishing above Lay Dam and see if we can get near that spot where that sound came from. Probably not. Don't know if I want to see what it was because I'll never be the same. Semper Fi, Sergeant L.E. Jr., U.S. Marine Corps, R. Reserves. All right, guys. That was a very horrifying experience from a subscriber. I love having subscriber submitted experiences. This next part of the upload is what happened while I was where Tom Mezek disappeared. I'm going to share with you the video, and then I will break down exactly what happened and explain everything prior, during, after. This was the one time, the one time that I did not go armed. I didn't even have my shotgun in the car. Usually I'll have that at least in my car. But here is what occurred, and we'll break it down after. All right, guys, we're back in Horicon, New York, where Tom Mezek disappeared. One of my favorite places, actually, to be. Even though I had a scare just the last time I was here. But there seems to be some noise today, and I'm going to be going up this trail just to kind of spend some time here, see if we can catch anything. Hopefully we don't, but I'll spin the camera around so you guys can see whereabouts I'm at, and just talk a little bit, and then we'll get to a spot, and I got some encounters to share with you guys. Hang on one second. All right, so the camera is spun around, and that is what is in front of me. That is what is aside of me. It's funny, last time I was here, I read in the comment section, a guy's like, there's a bunch of trees that are cut down. There are no trees that are cut down. This is broken limbs, broken trees. But you can't make everyone happy, right? I guess that's the thing. That's pretty cool. But I am glad that there is some noise today. Most definitely. So, find a location and kind of, like, I'm flat. That's the incline. And it is beautiful out. It's not humid. Absolutely gorgeous today. There's the trail that I came down through. Absolutely gorgeous here. So, last time I was here, I caught something running across the trails. I don't know what that was. It scared me pretty badly. Whew. Getting winded here. Absolutely gorgeous. Just a beautiful location. It did kind of silence out though, a little bit. But, oh well. Let's set up, and like, that's the mountain right here. I'm on the mountain. All right. I just want to kind of give a look-see. I don't see anything around me, but we'll set up and narrate a couple encounters, and just take a walk. How's that sound, guys? Alright guys, today's first subscriber submitted experience is from a former Marine. I guess once you're a Marine, you're never not a Marine. Which is I've always thought that was really cool, you know, because you have then dedicated your life to that division of service, you know. Really cool. So anyway, Jeff, I'm 53 years old. When I was 18, I joined the Marine Reserve straight out of high school, combat engineer and bulk fuel specialist, deployed in the first Gulf War, and now a disabled veteran. My dad was a two-tour Vietnam vet with the 101st Airborne Rangers, 20-year veteran. I grew up fishing very young. My dad and I used to go hard to get to the fishing spots. I was about 7 years old. In Yakima, Washington, my dad was stationed there for a few years. We'd gone fishing at our favorite spot. My dad had gone around the lake and I stayed near the car. Holy fuck, guys, we're out of here. We're out of here. What the fuck was that? Wow, I'm back at my car. There's nobody here. Dude, that was beyond. Like, I'm shaking. It just took me at least 10 minutes to run down that mountain. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. I'm gonna flip the camera around and show you where everything went by. So, there's nobody at this parking spot. Nobody. That's my car. Whatever knocked that tree down was up in here somewhere. I don't care if anyone calls me a coward, man. I saw something. I don't know what that was, but you guys saw me. I was narrating that. I'm not going back up there today. I'm going home. My chest hurts. That was unbelievable. I don't think I've ever been that scared. That was more scary than what occurred the other day when I caught whatever ran across the trail. I don't know if you guys can see right there. There's that orange tag on that one tree. Those are tags that they use to grid this area off to search for Tom Messick. Holy cow. I've only been here for 20 minutes. All right, I'm sorry guys. I can't stay here today. I am just way beyond freaked out. And now it was silent for a few minutes though, if you think about it, while I was narrating. And now once that happened, now you hear a bird. But I'm also about 1/8 of a mile away. All right, Jeff, why didn't you go armed? Because I dropped my daughter off at her mom's, which is an hour south of me. Where Tom Messick disappeared is about an hour north of me. So it's a 2-hour drive from dropping my daughter off. So it's about 3 hours altogether that I had driven prior to getting up there. I get up there, there's not a soul. There never is. It's just this quiet, desolate area. And so I remember getting out. I heard birds chirping, and I had my flip-flops on. I put my boots on and got my camera out, got everything set, threw my bag on, and realized that I had nothing on me except a SOG fixed blade, or Benchmade fixed blade, excuse me, and a SOG Slim Jim quick, just a quick knife that pops out. It's not an automatic, but it's fast. And I'm like, I'm only going to be here for a little bit, make a video. If I, so I'm not going to, I actually had no intent on going up to where the kill zone area is that I call, what I call is a kill zone area. I went up that wash again, and it's a pretty steep incline. Walked up it. You guys can see it in the video I'm talking. And I think I said, I do recall, this is one of my favorite areas to be at until today. And I'm sitting on these rocks. I had done a pan around. Something off in the distance caught my eye, but I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was a tree, because you can't really see. You just see a bunch of trees. And I'm sitting there and I'm just getting into narrating. I don't know if you caught it, but when I got to the spot in that story, when that happened, all of a sudden I hear this crash. And I didn't know what else to do. I grabbed everything and I grabbed my camera. And I start to run down that hill. Sometime picking the camera up, I must have bumped it just right because it had stopped recording. I'm running down the hill and I'm talking. But I look off in the distance and I see something. And I don't care if anyone believes me or not, because I know what I saw and you guys can hear the noise. And I see something huge kind of running up the hill away from me. And I'm flying down this hill. I'm 47. I'm not in the best shape. I have terminal illness. I smoke a Juul daily. But let me tell you, I ran like a 17-year-old on a track day. And I get to the bottom of the wash and I get out to where my car is. And I throw everything down on the ground. And I realize the camera's off, so I turn it on and I start to pan around. Because if it's going to come out, I want to at least catch it. And I walk up into the trail and I talk about it, what happened and stuff. And I unlock the car, put my stuff away. And I sit there for a few minutes and I head out. And I get to the Northway, which is what we call our highway up here. It's 87. And I'm going south, heading home, and I call my daughter Abigail, my oldest daughter, and I tell her what just happened. And, she's like, oh my God. I get home. I try to calm down. I make a cup of tea. And I was going to take a shower and get everything set. and record this. And the adrenaline dump that I had the adrenaline dump and the stress, I fell asleep sitting up in my studio upstairs and woke up an hour and 20 minutes later. Just like, what the heck? I wasn't tired. I didn't feel tired. It was that adrenaline that just finally wore off. I was running on adrenaline from the point I stood up and started running. And it was I don't even know if it was scarier than that night, but it was scary. And when I looked over, because I'm running down the hill, I've got my bag in front of me. It's one of those one strap bags. So I've got that and I'm holding, and I actually had to reprint 2 of the pages for tonight's upload because they had fallen out. But I had everything holding it right here on my chest and holding my camera like this and just running. And when I looked up, I could see just this huge creature. I don't know what it was. I don't know. And I don't care if people don't believe me because I don't care. And it was running up the hill away from me. Now I know how those people feel. I just wish, I had that camera on, I spun around. I wasn't even thinking. I was thinking, get the hell out of there as fast as you can, Jeff. You don't have any kind of protection on you except 2 knives. What are you going to do? Go toe to toe with? Anyway, that's the gist of what happened. You can hear the noise. You can see the fear in my eyes. I don't know if I'll be going back up there. And if I do, I won't be going. I'm going to get one of those GPS locators. I'm going to be investing in one of those this week. Whatever's up there is big, and it's made itself known to me now. Twice. And people have seen it in the background. I've read in comments, I don't know if it's a Dogman or a Bigfoot, but I know I'm in that location because you can see I try to show you guys the tags that they had tagged out when they were searching that 5 mile squared radius or whatever for Tom Mezek. All right, let's get into the next part of the upload. Sorry, guys. Today's final encounter. Hey, Jeff, I'm hoping this reaches you in good health. My encounter happened in the summer of 2015 in northern Maryland in an offset of the Appalachian Mountains, maybe a few miles from the Appalachian Trail. I grew up hunting this area with my dad when I was younger and continued going there into my adulthood. That is, up until this fateful day that changed my life forever. It was mid-late summer, so I went up, as I always do, to check my stand and lay out some corn and set my trail camera out, as well as scouting the area looking for rubs, scrapes, or any other signs of deer or wildlife. To be honest, I had never seen anything other than a deer and the occasional squirrel in this spot. There are bear around, but they are few in numbers, and have never found their way to me at all the times I've spent out there. Anyway, just north and uphill of my stand is a water source that I like to go and check out because most of the deer traffic comes from that direction, down a ravine just to the left of my stand, about 40 yards. Also, right by my stand is a second ravine that meets this first one heading downhill, kind of like a Y, and between them is a large cliff-type boulder sticking out of the hill, that you can't see until you get right to the edge of it. That will be prevalent later. While I'm done checking around the stream and about to leave, I hear movement coming my way and downhill. Hoping to see a nice buck, I duck into cover behind a large oak and wait. When it finally came into sight, it was just a doe, but I let it pass by instead of spooking it because aside from hunting, I also enjoy watching these majestic animals in their habitat. I gave it a little while, and when I had lost sight of it and couldn't hear it anymore, I headed to the ravine to get back out. I also should mention these animals use both ravines as a game trail and travel them. As I'm walking down, I'm doing so quietly and come up to my stand. The doe decided to eat some of the corn I had just laid out. I'm watching it from the ravine right at the rock where the two meet, just like I had mentioned. The other trail is about 20 yards in front of me, so I can't see anything on that side. As I stand there watching the doe eat, it shoots its head up, looks to its right and snorts and takes off so fast you would think someone was shooting at it. As that's happening, I hear leaves or foliage move and a stick break on the other trail over beside me. And from what it sounded like, I suspect it may have been another person. I stand where I had been without moving, waiting to see who or what comes out from behind the rock. To my absolute horror, a walking nightmare steps out on my trail, only 20 yards away, standing on two legs and sniffing the air. It takes less than 2 seconds for it to either smell or see me and shoot its head in my direction. This is the weirdest part of the whole thing because as my jaw dropped, so did its as well. It looked almost more surprised than I was. We stood there looking at each other in shock for a few seconds. Looking back on it now, I kind of get a laugh out of it because it reminded me of the Spider-Man meme where the 3 Spider-Men are all pointing at each other, kind of like, what the hell are you doing here? I have to tell you, as close as I was, and for the 5 to 10 seconds before anything happened, I got a really good look at this thing. I'm 5 feet 11 inches for reference, and this thing was easily 2.5 feet taller than I was. Long snout, high pointy ears, piercing orangish yellow eyes, short black fur, except for the back of its head and around its shoulders. Its hair was longer there, almost like a mane. Its arms were comically long, almost unnaturally even. Well, actually, Jeff, there was nothing natural about this at all. Its hands were larger than dinner plates with weird nails at the end. I don't know if they were nails or claws, though. I didn't really look at those because I was stuck looking into those eyes just locked in with it. I did notice that he had a tail, and yes, I said he, on the count of male genitalia. This thing snapped out of the surprise faster than I did, slowly lifting a leg and moving towards my direction. As it did that, I also stepped back, and for a few paces this continued until I realized for every step of mine, it was 3 times longer. I remember thinking to myself, I wish this a-hole would just chase that deer and not me. As it continued further to within 15 yards, I reached for my sidearm that I was carrying. I'm not sure why I bothered. I'm pretty sure a 9mm would just make this thing laugh. It looked like it was carved of stone. The muscles on this thing were unreal, like a well-defined bodybuilder. The closest thing I've ever seen since then was the werewolves in the movie The Dog Soldiers. It looked exactly like that, except black with a bushy tail. Anyway, as my hand reached my gun, it glared at me, showing its teeth and letting out a growl that was low-pitched. It vibrated my sternum. I could feel it resonating in my body as I went to pull it out. This thing leaned forward, going into a pounced position on all fours. And as it did that, I remember hearing a pop sound, almost like when someone cracks its finger. From what I understand, that noise is something semi-usual in other encounters. I'm guessing they could be double jointed in their knees, maybe, which would explain why they are so fast on 2 and 4 legs. At this point, I knew nothing I could do would save me. I never felt so ashamed and defeated in my life. I just let go of the gun and never drew it out of the holster. I knew, put my hands in the air, the conditioning to go back away, trying to show that I was not a threat and would not interfere in what it was doing. Not sure why to this day, but I'm glad I did. At the same time I raised my hands, I could hear the doe kind of running away, and it snorted like they do when they get wind of a hunter or see someone. As it did that, the Dogman turned its head in that direction and suddenly took off after it, with speed I've never seen the likes of. I don't know if that deer running kicked its prey drive into or what, but it decided to leave me alone. I stood there for a moment sobbing. I'm not even ashamed of that. I only remember crying once since I was a child, and it was when my grandfather died. This encounter just hit me to my core. The amount of fear I felt in those moments was nothing before or since. I hightailed it out of there. When I got my senses together, getting to my car and driving away. The adrenaline started to wear off, so I pulled into a gas station when I got into town and sat there a minute thinking about what had just happened. The first place I went was my dad's house to tell him to stay away from that place. I was hesitant to tell him why at first until he gave me a strange look and stated he doesn't go anywhere near there anymore on the account of having a strange experience there one day. He then told me that he had seen the same thing I did 3 years prior and never told me because he thought I stopped going up there when he did. I then remember going there with him when I was young. His stand was in a different spot than mine, so we would split off about halfway to my stand, which is about a half mile in. I used to remember after we got split, hearing something following me to my stand in the dark. I never thought anything of it because I figured it was just my dad following me most of the way there to make sure I got there all right. I asked him about it, and he informed me that he never followed me past the split point, even once. That's the most horrifying part because that went on for years. It wasn't every time, but it was a handful of times each year until the 2 or 3 year period that we hunted a different spot on the farm. When I think about that, it makes me sick to my stomach, knowing that it was probably that thing following me around in the dark when I was young. That shakes me to my core. To this day, I've only shared this experience with my dad and told my little brother about it as well because he also hunts sometimes. And I want him to be aware of what may be out there with him. These things could be anywhere. I don't know if my brother believed me or not, but if not, he doesn't hunt that area, so I feel better about it anyway. Anyway, that's my experience. I was inclined to share it after finding your channel and listening for the last few months. All right, guys. I'd like to thank you all for all the support. I'm sorry that I really wish that I had caught more on camera. When that crashing happened, and I'm in the middle of that experience, just sharing that experience, when I heard that, my heart dropped. I never ever felt such fear. Totally different than when I was younger and had my experience, because I was with my friends. I didn't know what it was. Now researching these things and knowing what's out there really took its effect on me. When I got home, I remember just knowing that I was running on adrenaline. My adrenaline didn't calm down until a while. You know, it was absolutely nuts. It was the scariest thing that I've ever had happen to me, and I am not ashamed to say that at all. You know, God, I don't know if I will go up there again. I probably will, but it's not going to be for a while. I kind of wish I had listened to my gut that day, yesterday. Because driving up there, I thought about that thing running across the trail. But you know, like I said, when I got there, everything felt different, man. It really did. Walking up that wash, I was just like, it feels good today, you know? It was nice and cool. The sun was out. The bugs weren't that bad. I mean, there was a couple of mosquitoes, but not like normal. There were birds chirping. And then that happened. I don't know if it blasted through a tree or what. I have no idea. But I remember grabbing my stuff and just literally pushing it against my chest so I wouldn't drop anything, holding my camera, and I must have hit it against my chest too. Because I'm running down the hill and I'm still talking to the camera. Like, I probably wouldn't have been able to air it anyway because I probably dropped an F-bomb every other word, you know. But I looked over and I just wanted to see if it was behind me. All I kept thinking when I was going down that hill was it's behind me. And when I saw that it wasn't, that it was going up, and it was going up, but it was angled, like it was trying to get across the wash to almost where, like if it, from where it had come to go across the wash out over that mountain and then down that mountain would have been where the kill zone would have been on the other side of the trail. Wow. Just insane. Anyway, guys, I'm sorry that I wish I had gotten more. I wish I had caught more. I really friggin' do. But, anyway, think of me however you want. If you want to call me a sissy for running, go for it. I don't care. Because I know how I felt. And it was not cool. So thank you for supporting this channel, guys. And please stay happy, healthy, safe, and definitely vigilant while in the woods. I looked around. I did a freaking turnaround. Anyway, God bless you all.